Hey, Wagwan, bruv, where's the food at still? Don't mess man about. That is pretty much the entirety of the script for Top Boy. Either way, Top Boy Season 2, technically Top Boy Season 4 because they decided to rebrand, but this is directly continuing on from the Top Boy Season 1 reboot that we got a few years ago. So it's carrying on with Deshane, Sully, and Jamie's story. I'll be honest, I had forgotten a lot of what had happened before because I only watched that first season once when it came out, and I never really felt I need to rewatch because I never thought it was as good as the original 2 seasons, which are now called Top Boy Summer House. Therefore, for a lot of the season I was a bit lost about the plot lines, but it was actually still kind of relatively easy enough to follow because characters would say stuff that would remind you and, you know, sort of make you go, oh yeah, that was the thing that happened, so you were kind of up to scratch. And whilst this show was easy to follow along with and, you know, understand what's going on, it was a bit of a mess because there were so many plot lines in this second season. And when I say so many, I mean too many, because when there's this much, you know, stuff going on, when there's this many plot lines, you're only going to be interested in some of them. You're not going to be interested in all of them. Some are more interesting than others because there's so many. So you kind of just look forward to one character's plot line more than another, and you're more curious to see how that unfolds. But ultimately, even the ones that are like, oh, that's kind of interesting, then there's not really a whole lot at stake because there's not like one big thing leading up to, you know, like a finale. It's just loads of little things that are sometimes connected with each other, which, don't get me wrong, it keeps the show exciting because there's always something going on. There's always someone who's in a situation, you know, you're not waiting. There's not a whole lot of build up a lot of the time. It's just sort of like, bam, there's something, bam, there's another thing. Which, don't get me wrong, it did keep the show exciting because there's always something going on, but everything just felt like a subplot. There didn't really feel like there was a main plot. And because everything is a subplot, you know, it seems like there's a new subplot being introduced every episode, and you're kind of maybe wondering about the thing in the last episode, like when's that going to get finished off, but instead you're just getting new subplots piled on top of the things you're already involved in. And these subplots are usually resolved within a few episodes because you can't have, like, you know, 10 things that need to be resolved in the final episode, so it's just kind of slowly ticking off the list, you know, and getting things done. And when it comes to the characters, I found it kind of hard to really empathize with them and root for them as much as we have done in the past because, for one, you're splitting between so many all the time, and then on top of that, they're making decisions that you can't really agree with them with. Like, even when you watch shows about criminals, you kind of are on the side of the criminal, whether it be like, you know, Walter and Jesse in Breaking Bad. You kind of want them to succeed even though they're doing something illegal and wrong. And it's been the same for, like, you know, the first 2 series of Top Boy. You're actually rooting for them, you don't like the police and whatnot, but in here it was just a case of you just couldn't really root for them all that much. I didn't at any point feel like, damn, I'm so desperate for them to succeed in what they're doing. I was just like, well, it'd be cool if they did, I guess, but I'm not all that fussed. That even applied to like the OGs, like Deshane and Sully. I think they just made decisions sometimes that would make you go, why? So like I said, I didn't find it that easy to really empathize with the characters, but I did find it easy to hate some characters. A group of characters in particular, if you've seen the show, you probably already know I'm going to say, the Scouse bunch. My god, I'm not the biggest fan of the Scouse accent, but I've learned to tolerate it. You know, Jamie Carragher and whatnot, listening to him on Monday Night Football is fine. Scouse chavs though, wow, they are something else. No segregation here, no prejudice, whatever, but goddamn, they were so fucking annoying in the show. But I suppose that's the point. They're characters you hate. And maybe they thought, wow, we can make people hate these characters even more if they're Scouse. And, you know, they're right. Honestly, I felt Deshane, Sully, and Jamie should have got more screen time. Particularly Jamie, because it felt like he was going to be the new Top Boy. You know what I mean? That's what they were trying to set up in season 1, so I really wish they'd given him more of a role here. It seems like, especially for the first like few episodes, there's not that much of him. And then Deshane, he's just sort of in the shadows a lot of the time. And then Sully, he's trying to stay out of everything. So, you know, a lot of these characters aren't on the front lines. All the other like sub characters are, but you know, they're the 3 ones we kind of want to see the most. And I think by having them sort of in the background more, it sort of lessened their character development, whereas a character like Jack, for example, felt like she had a lot of character development, you know, along with her sister. So it's a shame, you know, it's good that they got character development, but I feel like, you know, the main guys should really be getting it as well because they are the ones that are sort of the face of this show. This season though, despite my issues with it, it wasn't bad by any means. You know, the performances are always top. It's well edited, it's well paced. pace, and it's always interesting enough to make you want to watch the next episode. Like, never did I feel like, oh, I can't really be bothered, I want to watch something else. Like, it was always interesting. You're very curious to see what happens next, and that's because there's so much going on. But ultimately, it didn't feel like it actually got a lot done in the show. Like, you know, from the start to the end, I didn't feel like loads was accomplished. It just felt like, you know, we lost a few characters and some beefs were made, some things were resolved and whatnot, but it didn't feel like there was a whole lot of progression. Like, I'm struggling to see what it added. You know, I thought season 1 was actually quite an exciting revamp, even though I didn't think it was as good as the original two. I did like that it brought old characters back, and I liked the new ones that it had brought in as well. I thought it was actually adding on to it, whereas this, it just didn't feel like it was really going anywhere. At the end of the original seasons, like at the end of the second original season, it felt like Duchesne had really gone through a lot of character development, especially with what happened at the end. It felt like, you know, he'd really sort of realised that his line of work is affecting everyone around him, and it was dangerous, and, you know, that's why he had to leave and whatnot. But here it just felt like he was just making the same mistakes and doing the same things over again, and it didn't feel like it was something Duchesne would do because of all the stuff he's been through in the past. You know, it felt like he had more of a wisdom about him than it showed he had here. He felt reckless. You know, he didn't feel like the Duchesne we knew. This was an interesting watch regardless, though. I think it was good, but I just don't think it progressed anything. It was just entertaining, but it really didn't bring the story that far forward. It didn't bring characters much further forward, apart from a few sub-characters that got some screen time and whatnot. That's a shame, I think, because this series really had the potential, and, you know, a lot of people looking forward to it to really take it, you know, further on and develop things more. It didn't get dull, but it did leave me feeling that it was a bit mediocre by the end of it, so I'd have to give Top Boy Season 2 a 7 out of 10. That seems harsh. I feel like I could rate it higher, but I know if I did in like a week or two, I'd be thinking I rated that too high, because yes, it was good, but I know I don't really have any intention of rewatching this. So, you know, I think that sort of speaks for itself. Now, to talk spoilers real quick, for those of you that have seen it and you don't mind listening to this, or for those of you that don't care, let's just talk about the ending. Obviously, Jamie gets shot by Sully. This was surprising. And of course, I thought this was actually going to be the end of Top Boy, but they're obviously, by doing that, they're trying to set up a third season, which I suppose is no surprise because it's always about setting up more seasons. I thought it was a bad idea to kill him off. I don't think it made sense, especially as he's been loyal to Duchesne and whatnot, and, you know, it seemed like he was actually going to work his way up. But of course, it was Sully that killed Jamie, and my only reason for thinking he would do that is because Duchesne had said to Sully that he plans on having Jamie, you know, take over so that Duchesne can retire. And it's like Sully, even though, you know, he still has a bit of a grudge, of course, against Duchesne, he was like, oh fuck it, I'm gonna make it so he can't retire and kill his prodigy. I don't know, it didn't make the most sense to me. There's no personal beef. I know Sully doesn't trust him that much, and I guess it goes back to the fact that he knew Jamie was acting a bit dodgy and maybe planned on actually taking out Duchesne to be Top Boy, but I would have rather it played out first. You know, I would have rather they'd actually kept Jamie alive to see some actual beef go on there, but it's just like Sully was just like, I can't take the risk. But even then, like I said, in terms of character development, it seemed to go against Sully's character development. It seems like he would want to be less involved with stuff like that, especially now that he's seen his daughter again, and, you know, both the people in the flat, you know, Jamie's brothers have seen him. It didn't make sense, I don't think, on anyone's behalf for that to happen. But of course the question remains, did Sully do it to hurt Duchesne or to protect Duchesne? I don't know anymore. I didn't think Sully liked Duchesne, so I'm a bit confused. But either way, yeah, Top Boy, 7 out of 10, and yeah, thank you very much for watching. I've been Joe Squared, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.